Can you introduce yourself?
My name
Mm-hmm.
is Samuel
Samuel.
Fleeger, F-L-E-E-G-E-R.
When were you born?
Huh?
When were you born?
When was I born?
Mm-hmm.
November the 9th, 1928.
Who were your mom and dad?
My dad was John Samuel Fleeger. My mother was Nola Jane Fleeger. Edwards.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
16 altogether.
How many did you grow up with?
14.
What religion were you growing up?
Nazarene.
What church did you go to?
Nazarene Church.
Where?
In Avondale subdivision in Evansville.
Where? Out of your 14 brothers and sisters growing up, what order were you?
I was there was 4 younger than me. That'd be James, Jean, Ruthie, and Dorothy were younger than I. I was the 4th one to the youngest.
Okay. Can you tell me some of your favorite memories growing up?
What kind of memories that you're talking about?
Like memories with your brothers and sisters.
I don't know. I guess me and Darsh was close, and then Jean, I was close with Jean and Dolores, and Johnny, and James.
Can you tell me a story about you and Johnny?
Me and Johnny, we lived on this here farm for Mansion Record in Evansville, and me and Johnny was always played together, and we used to be able to open the gates for the people to come in there and go down to the party house where they had parties. And his name was Mansion Record, but he became mayor of Evansville, Indiana, and he threw a lot of parties in Evansville. And we lived on this farm with 7 lakes. This is where Dolores taught me how to swim by throwing me in and say, swim or drown.
What about you and Dolores?
Dolores,
Mm-hmm.
she was a lot older than I was, but she always did things to us that tried to get us in trouble. Like lining us up and telling us to get on there and hold hands. Then she'd stick her finger in the socket, and the last one would get shocked.
Let's see. What about you and James?
Me and James, he was younger than me. We run around later in life, but he was kind of a lot younger than me because he was born in 1937. I was born in 28. Me and Johnny was the closest to each other.
Were you closer to your dad or your mom?
I guess I was closer to my mom growing up.
Why?
I guess I was always sat on her lap, and I was always kind of partial to her. And my dad, he had to work, so he's the one that did the whipping.
Got any funny stories about that?
Not too much. The only thing he'd say Mom would say, wait until your dad gets home, you're going to get it if we did something wrong. And whenever he got home, why, he'd say, go get a switch and get a big one. So, if we didn't get a big one, he'd go out and get a bigger one.
What about, did you realize you guys were living during the Great Depression?
You know,
Could you
I
tell
was
me?
very young because the Depression started in 28. And I remember going down in a little red wagon with Mom down to get flour and sugar and ham from the trustee's office. And then I remember that I had to always went with Dad to get garbage to feed our hogs with in the alleys where I set the pushcart.
What about the flood of 1937?
The flood of 1937, we were living in a subdivision called Bibbley Heights. And we'd just built a home there and just got it finished. And the flood come in 1937 from the Ohio River, and we lived close to the Pigeon Creek. And it flooded our house, and everything got thing. So we had to be taken out to the highway, First Avenue, by boat. And when we got to the boatway, we put our stuff in the truck, and then we went all the way up to my uncle's place in Tennyson, Indiana, on the farm. So we stayed there for a while. Then we moved to the Oddfellows home, and then we moved to Midway, and had a farmhouse out there. And then that's when we moved to Mansion Rackard's place in 1937. We moved to Mansion Rackard's place, but he hadn't become the mayor yet. He was just a rich person. He had 100 acres out there farm, plus he had some more on Colbert Avenue. He had some more farm over there on Colbert Avenue in Evansville.
What age did you finish school at?
Finished school. I went to the 7th grade,
How old were you?
15.
What did you do after you quit school?
I left home
You left home. Why did you quit school?
because the teacher that I had thought I was dumb. So he told me I might as well quit school and get a job.
Okay, and then you said you left home after this? Where did you go?
I went to Evansville to my brother's house first. My dad come down there and said, get your stuff and you're going home. And when I got to the door, he said, I'm going to beat you for leaving, and you get the worst whooping you ever got. And so I took off running. And he took a piece of coal and buzzed it by my ear. And I felt the air of it. I hid over in the weeds until he left. And then I went to Puxico, Missouri.
What'd you do while you were there?
I stayed in Puxico, Missouri with the German people and took care of their house and cooked for them at 15. And in the spring, when I was 16 years old, I come back to Indiana, and back to Evansville. Then from there, I lived in the, what is it? Anyway, I went to Indianapolis, got a job up in Indianapolis at Wheeler's Cafe. And I was supposed to stay at the rescue mission in Indianapolis, but somebody helped me get a hotel room at the Washington Hotel on Washington, Pennsylvania and Kentucky Avenue. And I stayed there, and I worked at Wheeler's Cafe as a dishwasher, cook, a coffee boy, and they made me a frac cook there. I left there and went to California and stayed. Got in Williams, Arizona, and it got too bad for me to go, so I stayed there in Williams, Arizona, and worked for Williams Cafe. And then in the spring, I went on out to Concord, California. I got a job at Concord, California in a can wreck on the dock, unloading tomatoes and washing them. And then I left there and went with Carnival, Dodge Grader shows. When they closed up, I went to Longs United shows. And I was working for George and Mary Peck, and I was working in a concession at a commission basis. We traveled all over California, and I made good money. And I bought my own shiv rack and a nail joint. And I used to work the nail joint to where I'd set up 3 nails for $1. And if they knocked them all down without bending them, then they got a prize. But if they didn't, I kept the $1. And whenever I worked for Peck, George Peck, I worked in a shiv rack, and I was in Monterey, California, and they shut me down because they said I cheated. But who knows? We never know who cheated or who not. I would say that I did a little bit, but they shut me down. That's when I bought my own concession. So, then I come back from there in 45, and I went to work for Deaconess Hospital. I worked at Deaconess Hospital as a janitor on the 4th floor. I left again in 48, went to California again, and stayed out there in California until 1949. Then I went to Gary, Indiana, to work at U.S. Steel for 82 cents an hour running an ingot buggy.
What's an ingot buggy?
It's something that they put an ingot on, and then you have to run. You rode the ingot buggy with that steel on there, and you took it to the mill so they could roll it to a slab. Then from there, I went to work for UPS. I worked for UPS for a while. Then I went to Inland Steel. I worked there for till 1951. Then I come back to Evansville and worked at Serval Corporation on the fuel line of the F-84 wing. And then I went to Rivet Gang and rivet the wings. And from there, then I got laid off in 1952 when Eisenhower got to be president. And I drove a cab from 1952 to 1955. And I got out of a job, and I went back to Gary, Indiana, and went to work for Youngstown Sheet and Tube. There I stayed for 28 years, 11 months, 5 days. And I had to retire because of illness of my heart.
Can you go into a little more depth about the illness on your heart?
I had open heart surgery twice. I had one in 1982, and I had one in 1992, and then I had a pacemaker put in 2007, and I'm 87 years old, be 88 years old in November.
You have a birth certificate to prove that?
I got what they call a birth certificate. It's not the real one because they spelled my name wrong. They spelled it Fleger instead of Fleeger. That's about it. I'm here still. I'll be 87 and 88 in November. I'm still here.
Did you ever get married?
I've been married twice. I had 2 kids by my first marriage and 2 kids by my second marriage. One was a stepson and one was my daughter, Tiffany. And I have 3 great-grandchildren. And altogether, I've got about 10 grandchildren, and I don't know how many great-grandchildren.
If there was anything you could do again, what would it be?
I think I've lived my life. I think I've lived it pretty good. The only thing I want to live to see my grandkids now that I've got. Tiffany growed up, be big, strong, and good job. Okay, that's about it.
Did you ever wish you went back to school?
I tried a couple of times, but it didn't work out.
Do you miss your brothers and sisters?
Sometimes, but they're all passed on now. I'm the only one that's left out of the 16.
What do you miss doing with them?
I don't know. I just miss some of them more than I do others. Because me and Johnny was pretty tight. Me and Dolores was tight. Me and Darce was tight. Me and Jean was very tight. So I know Ruthie wasn't very tight, but she was at last. She was real tight. But she passed on before. That's about it. What else you want?
I guess that's it. Thank you for interviewing.
Hope it helps.